I worked with the United Nations for 38 years. I spent 14 years in Africa. And as soon as I arrived in Africa, I loved the young artists. So I really have been collecting African art for 40 years. And here at Metropolitan, you have about 50 pieces. And as you come into the Metropolitan, this wonderful building, you see these 5 very large mapulas. But I think of all the gifts that I've given to anyone or given to different museums and universities here in Nebraska, mapula is always a favorite because it tells the story. And they're gorgeously done and with the richness of the embroidery and also the colors. Well, you know, the masks in Africa are very meaningful. They're spiritual. They are defense against bad spirits. I've never seen an African home with a mask inside. It's to be on the outside to make sure that the home is safe. And they're beautifully done, but I always think so many of the masks need a background. So a great friend of mine called Woody the Welder. And what Woody does is to bring these masks alive. Because a mask really can't stand alone. It needs to breathe. It needs fresh air. So the masks, although they're throughout Africa, but the masks that I have given Metropolitan are primarily from the country of Benin and the country of Nigeria. Now, when you become a chief, people give you gifts, which is really nice. So you'll see upstairs the calabash, big dried gourd. Well, I'd never seen gourds that size before. You know, the gourds are this big and they slice them off. They dye them, they use a traditional dye, and then they do a carving. You know, congratulations, Natalie Hahn, the Balunganiyala jade, the dates. Those are very, very nice gifts that we have upstairs. Malkala is very much of an African game, and it's done with a lot of different rocks or pebbles. And it's a game that Africans like playing, but it's a beautifully hand-designed base. The chief chairs are actually made in Malawi, and they're really never used by a chief. They're ceremonial, but oftentimes they're given as gifts as a sign of prestige, as a sign of wanting to remember the indigenous cultures. But they're so beautifully designed, and they're difficult to sit in, but the 2 that you have upstairs I thought were very, very nice, and I'm delighted that they're here. And your setting here is so beautiful. It is the most beautiful African exhibition, I believe, of course I'm biased, in Midwest America. It's a perfect site for entertaining, for celebration, and I thank MCC for this opportunity.